John was working in his science lab, got blasted by gamma rays. Now he's Smash Trivia John, always smashing. He's friends with Ruffalo, in love with Aslan, and also some arrow weaving. John's here saying, hello my gamma friends, welcome to the show, the Gamma Analysis Podcast.
And hold. Smash.
Hello, my Gamma friends. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia. I'll be one of the big old green head in the profile picture. This is the Gamma Analysis, basically I'm going to review everything Hulk on movies, TV shows, and also do random other geeky films. Hope you enjoy. Smash Trivia presents the Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone, let's see if this is time for me. Please share the hell out of this podcast with all your friends. If you don't, Hulk will be angry. Now let's smash right into this episode. Today's episode is a review of Spider-Man Brand New Day with my friends Brayden and Kira. How are you doing?
I'm doing
Excellent.
Oh, so this
Actually, more than excellent. Can I not to interrupt you? I've been really depressed, and I still need to up my meds. But like, I've been having a hard time with like stuff lately, and it's great. And Thunderbolts did the same thing, where like it came in and just was so perfect for making me feel kind of like not just seen and like cathartically understood with the sad parts, but kind of like it has that hope core of like it has a perfect balance of like he's struggling and this is how he's getting through it, and that kind of I like stuff like that where it's people kind of like have been making fun of this turn in the MCU, you could call it, which I think this has always been part of superhero movies, but I guess it's because it's been happening so much in the MCU where it's like, oh, they're hugging at the end, and I'm like, is that so bad? I think that's what we need right now. I think we need some stuff like that, where you reach out a hand to someone instead of punch them in the face every time. But we still had excellent action. But like and that's such a Spider-Man thing to do that it fits better in this than it would in a lot of other superhero movies, I think. And it just made me feel very good. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, understandable. Well, I like this a lot. I don't completely love it, but mainly just because I'm disappointed by the Hulk stuff in it. But it is really great as a Spider-Man film. They dealt with him having him being away from his friends and really good way.
No family.
The only thing I would change with the situation with his friends, and so to be honest, like I didn't in the first place, I didn't like that spell at the end of No Way Home. But since they did that, what I would change though is that I would have that there is more continuing anger from MJ. Because that it really is kind of fucked up to force this fake life on MJ and Ned for 4 years when they did not ask for having a fake life for 4 years. They asked for him to immediately come find them, and I think because he went against their wishes, there should have been more more anger from them.
Yeah, but I also think it makes sense because they didn't make that anymore.
Well, yes.
Like they don't remember that, and also it makes so much sense for his character that like I like that it is like the movie acknowledges it is morally like fucked, but also an understandable stance from what he was feeling, and they do a good job of like, and then he's very much experiencing the consequences of those actions, and it's interesting. I think there is still some lingering like kind of like resentment and stuff from NJ, but she's so emotionally mature that she's very much still mad, but she's also kind of like she's like a very empathetic, emotionally mature person, and I think she's also like she's unable to not be like, how would I feel if I were him? And I think that's so interesting as well. And
Hmm.
because she still stands her ground and it's like that wasn't okay, and she really lays it out. But I also love that she's like, also that's like I love that she's like, this sucks for me and Ned, but also wolf, wolf. Like, and I think that's a really like interesting way to like portray it, where like I think she is angry, but it's almost like it's what like I don't and I think this is more understandable if you've been in MJ's place in a certain situation
Hmm.
where you are angry and have every right to be angry, but the other person has already like taken so much accountability and has already been punished so much by themselves that you almost feel like there's
Makes
nothing
sense.
left for you to do, and that's a really weird place to be in, and I've been
Yeah.
there. And I think that they did a really good job with MJ almost feeling like struggling to be like, what do you even say,
Yeah.
like after you've laid the groundwork. There is a kind of awkward moment where they're both like, what, like it's because they both agree, like they agree, but I love that they agree completely that it was the wrong thing for him to do, but that you can't change it, you know what I mean, like
Hmm.
it's been done. And I think that's really interesting, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like there's no spell this time. And I love that they also like played it out like the fan fiction fluffy version of like, oh, I magically remember, and it was really like Gene fucking with him, because
Yeah.
that's not how the world works. And I love that they subverted that, but didn't have it to where he has to like completely let go. He has to let go of his old, like he has to accept what he did, let go of the old like versions of that, but then embrace these new relationships he could have on new foundations. Like now that the air is clear and everyone is on kind of the same page, he can form, even if it's not romantic, like new relationships with like MJ and Ned. And he did pretty quickly, to where like, yeah, MJ may not remember stuff, but she also knows of Spider-Man and cares about him the way everyone else in the city does.
Yeah.
And then to find out all this on top of that, and to grapple with the fact that, especially after Elena says he finally made friends, like, and him being like, oh, I haven't done this in years. She is like, MJ out of everyone is the one who's really mentally thinking about like, you are not okay. That wasn't okay to do, but also I'm like,
Yeah.
you should be on suicide watch. And I think that's
Hmm.
very, it's an indicator of how smart MJ is. Because MJ,
Oh
they
yeah.
did a good job of making her as smart as she should be. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Hey, I do really like all of that, and like Spider-Man's his arc through this is really good. I think they did a great job on Jean Grey. I for this as I loved of Peter and Frank's friendship a lot. Even though I do wish that we could have gotten to actually see them meet for the first time. I'm not just skipping over that. No,
Mhm. Yeah.
I I did really like their relationship, and their dynamic was the honestly probably the most fun parts of the film for me. Because it allowed the film to actually have some funny moments, which this film has a lot less funny moments than previous Spider-Man films have had. Which I personally like Spider-Man a lot more when he's allowed to be funny.
Yeah, and he's funny in a way that I like a lot more, where it's a little bit more like I think it's a good job of mixing his already he's already been a bit sassy and a bit like kind of goofy, but now it's a little bit mixed in with more of his edgier, like not in like a brute, like he's a little bit brutier but also still upbeat. He's like, it kind of reminds me of Clark in this season of My Adventures with Superman, where he has these really funny moments where he'll just be like, you can tell he's a little bit sick of it. He's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit tired of this bullshit. Like when Mixie was like shit talking him, and Clark was just like, okay, man. Like the tone of voice of like, man. And that's very much Spider-Man in
Yeah.
this movie, where he's just like, he's kind of done. Like he's super like still like,
Mm-hmm.
like soft spoken. He like, I can imagine like if he was to save a little kid, he like that kid he like saved. He was like, oh, are you okay? You're okay. And that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, what we've seen before in the movies, but now we get a little bit more of the edgy of like him like fully like shit talking Frank, and like trading jabs with Frank and like the New York accent. Really, like it is giving so like much. It is much more of a like a modern, mature, like adult type of still sassy humor. It's like the sassiness of a child versus the sassiness of an adult to another adult. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like a little bit more bite to it, a little bit more done with your bullshit, but I still care about you. A little bit more. I'm not mincing my words. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because I'm talking to the Punisher, or I'm not gonna, or like, and the way he talks to different people, he talks to the Punisher a bit differently than he talks to the detective, but he still talks to the detective and the Punisher on a more mature adult to adult. We understand each other way. Then he talks to even Ned or MJ or the kid he saves. Like, I think, or even Jean, because Jean is in such a fragile state, he's trying to be there for her. So he like engages the like very gentle, like friendly, well spoken Spider-Man for like those moments where that's what someone needs. But he's not afraid when someone, like, frankly, I think he understands Frank needs that from him. Frank needs someone who is not as far gone as him, but is also not going to put up with his shit or be intimidated by him. Because a lot of people were talking about when like a lot of people are talking about Punisher's dynamic with Daredevil versus Punisher's dynamic with Peter, and some like idiots who like don't have media literacy low-key were like, why is he so much chiller with Peter? And it's like, he's Matt he sees as a hypocrite. Matt he sees as like this warped mirror image where Matt pretends to be holier than thou and kind of like it does a thing where like it's because Matt is more far gone, like him and Matt actually have more in common, but then Matt tries to push this like agenda on him, or like he feels at least like Matt is pretending to be better than he is around him to like rub it in his face, I think. You know what I mean? Whereas with Peter, he genuinely is this like, yeah, they're both adults and they clearly met as adults, which is why I think they should kiss. in my like opinion, like Peter MJ is and jokes aside about that, you know what I mean, I like that he had kind of chemistry with everyone, where there are a few ways that you could go where like, yeah, him and Peter and MJ are obviously endgame, but I think they're gonna go with them like exploring other relationships temporarily before that, which I think is a very
that would
adult
be
thing.
cool.
You know what I mean?
That would definitely be very cool, and like stuff like him having other relationships, him being allowed to have sex is like signed from the comics, and that's something we haven't been able to have in the movies. So that would be cool to have in the future for them to explore that more and like explore different relationships that you could have with different women, and like we could have them finally introduce who's Black Cat in a future.
Oh my god, that felt like it was being like subtextually built up. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was surprised Black Cat didn't make a little cameo. Not that I think that was like a detriment to the movie. I feel like they built up a really good job of his roster of villains he's dealing with regularly, and we'll feel like we'll see some of those villains pop up. Vulture, like he didn't have a huge as big, like he wasn't the main antagonist, but he was a really good role in this movie as being part of his rogues gallery. You know what I mean? That has kind of like more of the personal relationship to him. Same with like Tombstone. I loved the moment where Vulture like woke up out of like Jean controlling him.
You mean Scorpion?
You're so right. It's not Vulture, it's Scorpion. But you see how I get them mixed up because they're both dudes that use the fucking shit.
And they also both appeared in Homecoming.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
But and it's interesting how his rogues gallery is a lot of like people who augment themselves in some way. You know what I mean? They brought some of like, again, they've had Scorpion. Thank you for correcting me, but I was just thinking of the same guy. You know what I mean? I just misnamed him.
Yeah, I understand.
Basically, they had him like he's interesting because he's like this kind of like rogues gallery-esque like villain. But the moment where like Jean controls, and then he wakes up from it and he like looks around, he's like, "What happened?" I don't know if you noticed because of like the quality, but like I noticed he was crying. He started crying because that is so scary, even for a villain.
Well,
like that would be so upsetting.
I think there's like,
because he loves mayhem.
Emotional. There's an emotional thing to it, but also just simply, he's probably crying because he's in pain.
No, he's in pain
because
ass whooped.
Like Spider-Man Spider-Man and jumped up and went down on his
that
stomach
shit was
with
crazy.
full force. Or like that is is probably the most painful thing he's ever experienced.
No, for real. And if he didn't have like what enhancements he has, he would be dead. You know what I
Oh
mean? Like if
yeah,
he didn't have his like body armor shit, he'd be dead as fuck. He's definitely injured. But I also think that moment, as we've discussed before, like MJ said, it's so scary because it's instantaneous, and then you process in real time that you weren't that something has happened that you weren't in control of. You know what I mean? Which I think is similar to a lot of like psychosis, like episodes of Psychosis or whatever, where people black out and wake up somewhere else. Like that was kind of evoking that, and he like. And it would be quite jarring, even for a villain, to be like, why am I here? Why did you beat the shit out of me when I didn't act like when we usually like, especially if it's Spider-Man and you're like, whoa, yeah, we fight, but what happened? Because it's never been like, one, why am I here? I don't remember it. Two, it has never been like this. What the hell? I love how shocked Scorpion, shocked and kind of like brought to tears, like out of just like surprise and pain and confusion. He was like, what the hell? Like the actor did a really good job of that. His face shifting into being like quite alarmed and upset. I like that a lot, especially when it's like an antagonist that we're not really supposed to super like care about. But from a very human perspective, you have a moment of like, I wouldn't want to be him right now. That sucks. That sucks really bad. And like, yeah, ACAB, but in the context of the movie, it like it does suck that Spider-Man like hurt that like beat cop that he like as in the context of the movie, we have no reason to like hate, you know what I mean? In this like propaganda context, obviously, like how I feel. Like we can get into that. But the context is he hurt someone who wasn't doing anything wrong at the time, you know what I mean? And was a bystander and was coming to help him. And that's horrifying, like to him, you know what I mean? And not to mention, the cop got hurt. That shit went flying. There were civilians. He could have fully fucking killed like a kid.
So yeah, it's like I'm surprised that didn't have more of an effect of turning the city against him. And after that scene, and like he didn't really see a lot of reaction from the city after that.
Well, I think that's something that might have been like cut down that was kind of implied. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that's in some like cut scenes that we might get. But it was interesting because everyone was kind of shocked and stuff. And they were like watching, and they also like know that him better by now. But they also saw that they saw him run over and he was yelling. He was like, "Oh my God, is she okay? Is she okay?" And then they saw the detective be like, "Are you okay?" And so I think that also like that was probably even recorded, the part where he's like, "Is she okay?" So I think that factors into it a little bit. And remember, what we did see was Ned reacting to the Hulk, which I as we said, we talked about was one of my favorite parts that they did with the Hulk, where Ned was like in tears and being like, "Oh, I hope he's okay. I hope," like as he was, because everyone, I think it's implied, a lot of people have an understanding now, more commonly, that a lot of the times these things aren't intentional or like unnecessarily in control. And like, there's a reason to be scared of stuff that's out of control, but I think a lot of people, is implied, have grown to empathize with what it must feel like to have a mental breakdown that involves powers like that. I imagine there's so many mentally ill people that don't have powers in the MCU who were like, thank God, don't give that to me. And so I think I think that scene with the Hulk was meant to kind of imply how a lot of people probably reacted to seeing that, where they were like, wow, is he okay? Because that's not the Spider-Man that we know, and we know him so well now. They were I think there was some hesitance of people being like, is he losing it? But then when he got shot in the back, people were like, this is the same Spider. He's still the person who would take a bullet. So I think that really like, because like it's kind of like if you saw, it's again like we kind of talked about, like if you saw a celebrity crashing out, and even in a way that might be a bit harmful, but then you heard that they like.
All right, we are back. Back. I had to help my mom with something real quick. You were talking about. I honestly don't remember, Kara, but
no, it's fair. I wanted to. We were talking about a bit about how I think we ended off thinking like it would be cool if Spider-Man and MJ both get to have their own dalliances with temporary romances and like explorations of romance and sex on like in a really adult way before they come back together, because they're obviously endgame. But I like this kind of gives them space to be friends again in kind of an awkward way while they work on themselves. You know what I mean? And I like that. But I was getting back to the thought of like in general, all of his dynamics with people in this movie, like he talks to people differently depending on like his relationship with them and what they need. And one of the first things we clock watching the movie is like, oh, his closest relationships right now before he reconnects with Ned and MJ and stuff are with two older people, two older adults who he met as adults. You know what I mean? As an adult, you know what I mean? So, but with two older adults, the detective and Punisher, who are like, I don't know, like Punisher's like what in his 40s?
He's 50 something. He's 50 something because
He
based
looks
off
damn good for his 50s. Shit.
no. Basically based off of when he served and when he came back, and also like because in the Punisher TV show they talk about Islamophobia, and he even when we see Frank raising his kids, at one point his son he says something kind of Islamophobic, so Frank slaps him in the head because he was trying to say I don't want an insert star to kill you, Dad, and Frank was kind of like even if they did kill me, don't call them that. That which is what happened in the Punisher TV show, and that was like 2007, I think, something like that, like late 2000s, because he just came back from a tour, and then with the way Daredevil season 2 came out and aired, that was like right before he even took on the costume, and like right after his family died, not too long after, and that was like in the MCU because Brand New Day takes place 2027, 2028, around there. Uh, like he's been Punisher for like 10, 11 years, and he's like almost 60 or like mid 50s, right? Something like that.
Which though the actor is only 49.
Yeah, so he's playing older, which is
No. Oh, with like having these friends and who are and he has a lot of chemistry with who are older, or like I honestly, I wouldn't mind if we were to have a romance with an older woman in the future, or like I think
Or
that
an
could be
older
a lot of
man.
fun. And like like we could have a older one like, be cast as Black Cat, maybe someone
Ooh,
in
maybe
her
not.
40s.
Maybe not someone like it's like with a huge age gap, but like someone who's like maybe even like 5, 6, 7, like is a little bit older than him and MJ. Like, because I think it's interesting because like even on the platonic kind of dynamic he has with these older characters, Frank and the detective woman, it's not. It's more. It's like there are some people who are going to be like, oh, it's like, because people are always going to jump to like, and I think there is something to be said, like you can interpret it like, oh, it's kind of like a brotherly relationship, but like, which I think you can interpret there, but like or it's like, oh, he's kind of like has like a big sister slash aunt figure kind of like in the detective, but I think that's even less applicable to the detective because they seem on more equal footing than, and like she and like it's like he's not trying to replace his aunt. He has his actual kind of like connection with this woman that he does, like they may not like know everything about each other, but like they became colleagues and clearly like work well together, kind of like it's very much giving like it's kind of like it feels reminiscent of like the relationship Miles will have with his dad, or that Batman has with what's his name with Gordon, where
No,
you have someone on the inside who kind of like understands you and you have a bit more of a rapport with, because
yeah.
and I think that also makes more sense for the MCU to be in that stage to where the cops can't exactly be like, oh, stop doing that. At like, you know what I mean? Like, stop. Like, it's a thing where like they kind of have to like. There are certain that we can tell there are certain heroes who like are able to have a reputation enough to where they're able to work like kind of unofficially in coexist with the like official law enforcement and government, because they have kind of like a good rapport, even if they're not like officially like documented like legally working together, like because that would require like again like the stuff that kind of like went awkward with the Accords and stuff, where it's like and now like I'm pretty sure the sense is kind of in the MCU now is the government still wants control over some of these people, but a lot of people are like no longer on that kind of like side. A lot of people are more mixed, it seems, publicly, where they're like, actually I think I trust someone. And I think we understand this now more than ever. I think in some ways people will trust a Spider-Man based on his actions, you know what I mean, over just the government, the government just because you know what I mean. Like I think that makes a lot of sense that people, and I think that also explains why people were hesitant to immediately malign him after that incident, because no one died. Everyone who got hurt was like, and he clearly showed so much remorse, and it was in the process of stopping someone who was hurting people. You know what I mean? Like, and he also like, but I think the clear remorse that was shown and how the detective was like like because people were not that far away. They heard that conversation. Do you know what I mean? Like people definitely heard him like crashing out, being like, "Oh my God, is she okay? Is she okay? Is everyone okay?" And I think that goes a long way because how like if you think about it, you know what I mean? There's even if cops or government agents, even if they make a mistake and feel remorse for it, they're not allowed to express that. Like they're usually not supposed to publicly admit that because that's admitting fault. Do you know what I mean? And that could be legally like. And so I think there's something about a vigilante immediately being like, "Oh my gosh, my bad. I'm so like." I think that on a human level, people have some like understanding of that. And I think that's also why people like the Hulk. So not just because the Hulk saved the worst, but because he's had this time to talk. Like as we saw with the class, he's had this time to explain his side, to talk about his experiences. It's now like I'm pretty sure it's canon. He has like a memoir out. Like people now have a much deeper understanding of the Hulk, as Bruce and the Hulk as like as people. You know what I mean? And the struggle they have. And so I think that's part of why Ned's just. It's similar to when you that a celebrity is maybe like crash or someone's crashing out, and you're like, I know this like when people have more empathy instead of jumping to shame and dismiss someone. And I think that we've actually had a trend where people now like in general have more empathy for stuff like that these days, where they're like with the Britney, like back in the day with the Britney Spears thing when everyone was like, oh, she shaved her head, she's crazy. I think now with all this stuff, I think it's a really good interesting commentary on how the public is a little bit more empathetic in a lot of ways than it was in the past. Like obviously it's still not perfect, but there's more of a voice that rises up that is like more nuanced and is like, hey, this person's going through something. It doesn't make their actions okay, but we should have some human empathy. That clearly is also happening in the MCU, and I find that really interesting.
One thing I want to say, as to your point, Kara, the Gordon Gene Wolfe connection is deliberate because while Peter does have a Commissioner Gordon in the comics, his name is like Lamont, who's like this cop that's created in the 2000s who looks like Gordon, but he's obviously not in the MCU or even in the other Spider-Man stuff. With Jean DeWolf, she's kind of an underrated, famous detective in Spider-Man comics, and usually she just gets killed off. Like there's a huge storyline when she dies. So I like the fact that Jean is just treated like she's very modern in this film, because in the comics she's very like 1940s noir inspired. The way she dresses, the way she acts as a detective, and other than the fact they have this Batman Gordon thing going on, I like the fact that though they could have set it up, she didn't. She didn't immediately flip or betray him because it's obvious that in regards to damage control and some stuff going on in the MCU, the damage control wants control over the new superheroes, like new people with powers. But people like the Avengers and Spider-Man and some other people, they're not a major concern right now until they can convince the public that they're super dangerous. As obviously, damage control had those weapons against Peter in the event Spider-Man ever went bad. So they already had backup plans in the event he turned, but Bill Metzger was hoping that they could just like, oh, we can make you a mascot for our team. Same with the hand ninjas that we convinced to work for us. If we just get you on our side, not only can we take Jean down, but we can help legitimize creating anti-Avengers in a way. That's what I felt like to me. They were trying to set
They were trying to like spin, like get people into under their thumb who they could like be like, and like it's also a thing where like you could it's also they did a really good job of like having Peter stumble into realizing how he was so self-absorbed in his problems he didn't realize really the implications of his creations until he realized how they could like the damage control, like what they could do with it. And I think it's everyone and I think it really works. Like everyone was like people have all this discourse about like this Peter being influenced by Tony, but it's like it's the cat's out of the bag. We're in the MCU where Tony was a big figure in this Peter's life. He didn't completely shape him, but he was a large figure in his life, and now he's gone. And I think what's really interesting is how, this movie really didn't really focus on Tony because that was like with a lot, like that's what.
Did this movie even mention Tony at all?
He is referenced. No. He's
kind
referenced.
Tangentially, he's like the vibe.
There's actually a moment. I mean, obviously we're going to spoil this, but there's a moment when Peter's memory with Aunt May is shown. That's a scene that happens after the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming, where she sees him in the costume. There's a bag from Tony Stark in Spider-Man: Homecoming where that says, "This belongs to you, TS." that same backdrop is in that scene behind Peter and Aunt May
Okay.
that Jean also sits in front of. So there was even some people who were kind of like, well, symbolically, this is kind of like Tony's bag to Tony's spirit saying the MCU belongs to Peter and Jean now, which I'm kind of like, that might be too much, but I understand what you're trying to say. That's the only Tony Stark reference is the backdrop in the background that says TS on it. That's which I thought was kind of funny. Well, good attention to detail, I think. Because even like
Oh yeah.
that flashback scene, not only did they have to make Tom Holland look a little bit younger, some people won't know something. Other than changing his hair a bit, he had to give a little pitch to make him sound like himself in the first Homecoming film for that scene with Aunt May. And I loved how because we all knew they were going to show focus on Aunt May through his grief and depression.
Mhm.
I didn't know where it would be, and I'm glad that it was that memory. You know what I mean? And it, for what it does for both Peter and Jean at the end of the film, and in a way, Jean needed not a mother, but like just something of family that could actually help her get through this. You know what I mean? Going forward,
Yeah.
and it's a great way to make Peter become potentially her. I mean, a great friend for future stuff going forward.
Oh yeah, makes sense. Now, I do want to I want to talk a little bit about Hulk in this film. So I personally am very disappointed with Hulk in this film. I think that he should have had a lot more time in the film. And it should have been inside where we get also him teaming up with Peter, not just fighting him. And I also feel like even I understand people wanted Savage Hulk back. I feel like this version of Savage Hulk kind of feels like a reverting in character development back to how he was in the first Avengers film, which I don't like the like him reverting in character development. And I think and it disappoints me so much Hulk in this because I worry that, or as I told this in last night, I worry that we will never get another Spider-Man and Hulk crossover film together, where it's where and that's not like an Avengers film, and I think and that even though that is one of my biggest wants from Marvel, and I feel like by having him in so little of this, you kind of wasted your one chance to have that.
I told you how I felt, but
I
obviously I was
understand.
no, but I was meant to Kira because she wasn't there for that. But
Yes.
so basically, you know, you know how like in the first Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy, Kira, Happy
Mhm.
Hogan was in all three films. I think that role's gonna go to Bruce
Mhm.
because the one reason why I think
I
that
was
is
thinking that.
no, because before the MCU, before like people seem to forget this because Marvel pop culture has been reshaped by the MCU, and the rights issues between these various film studios kind of fucked over a lot. But in Marvel merchandise and in comics and whatever, the trinity of the Marvel universe was not Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, or Thor. The real trinity of comic book characters that united the Marvel universe was Wolverine, because he's the most popular X-Men, Spider-Man, because he's the most popular superhero of all time, and the Hulk, because he's the most popular Marvel character by himself, next to Spider-Man. So those three men were the faces of Marvel, especially in the 90s. Like they united the fandom in a way. But obviously, because of the films, they couldn't put them together with everything that they're positioning forward into the MCU, I personally believe they're going to build up to Logan, Hulk, and Wolverine being together in Secret Wars, but also perhaps in future films afterward. Um, Now we all know they're going to do more with Hulk and Secret Wars and other stuff, and Sony. So one of Sony's demands with the MCU is we need Marvel characters that we don't own to cameo in each film. I mean, some people seem to forget this, but while Spider-Man: Homecoming only had Tony Stark and Happy Hogan as the guest characters,
And
Sony
Captain
also
America. And
so
Captain America as well.
Captain as Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, he did Captain America cameo. They originally also wanted Rhodey War Machine to be in the film. That didn't happen because of a bunch of stuff. And then, of course, by the time, obviously with No Way Home, we got Doctor Strange and this, and there's even like other stuff that Sony wants from Marvel. Like even the fact, some people ask the question, why is Jean here? And earlier ideas that I noticed to be true in the Ultimate Universe in the 2000s, when Peter breaks up from MJ, Kitty Pryde of the X-Men, Shadowcat, Peter and her date for like a good year and a half, and they have a relationship. Sony wanted Kitty in this film. They wanted Shadowcat, but then Kevin Feige was looking at the plot and he was looking at some other stuff, and he went, "I don't think Peter's ready to date yet because he's still processing a lot mentally. But I could use this as a great way to deploy Jean and do this other stuff here and there if it fits with the themes." And I also think one thing that I think is very underrated. In Superman 2, the movie, the second Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, when he pulls that out of his ass, he kisses Lois and he wipes her memory of his secret identity, and it was done for that film, that romance. She forgets the entire plot of Superman 2 after he kisses her. And it's not even from the comics, it's something they made up for that movie. That idea inspired the comics with Spider-Man, because in the comics, when Spider-Man outs himself to the world, because Tony Stark convinced him to, Kingpin shoots at May, and Peter Parker makes a deal with Mephisto, aka the devil of the Marvel Universe in a way, and that's why they mind wipe everyone in the Marvel Comics universe. And Peter sells his marriage to Mephisto. He loses MJ in that film. One of the reasons why I love No Way Home is that they did a way better version of that book, because J. Michael Straczynski hated the idea of undoing the romance of Peter and MJ and hated the memory thing. And the only reason why he did the memory thing was because he said, A, Marvel wanted it, and B, this is my reference to Superman 2. But now, in the Christopher Reeve Superman films, Clark and Lois are just together in Superman 4, and she finds out he's Superman all over again. The conversation of the memory of Rachel never comes back up. And in the current Marvel comics with Peter and MJ and Peter are friends. MJ is mad at Peter for not telling him, and they will never get together because Marvel editor put in a rule that Spider-Man Peter Parker must always be single, and he will never get married to MJ again. Like they hate the marriage of Peter and MJ, the Marvel editorial, and this is what led to disagreements in the Spider-Man fandom, because everyone wants them together. Marvel Comics refuses to put them together. So in regards to the MCU, it's going to be different because they will probably get back together, but Sony executives, they want a Spider-Man that will date other people and be single for multiple films. So
I kind of agree.
yeah, because that hasn't been done yet. Because in all these films, he's always pining over MJ or Gwen or whatever. And seemingly, I guess they kind of convinced Tom Holland, oh yeah, we can date other people and then get back with Zendaya later when it's healthy for you two. But one thing I do love about this film that kind of makes the choice of Jean I really liked a lot is, as you pointed out earlier, John, it's like, Peter he was forced by the plot of No Way Home to change MJ and Ned's lives, and of course their mental autonomy in a way. When Jean and Peter are going back and forth, they're arguing, through each other and doing all this stuff. Peter is kind of like, what you're doing to MJ is monstrous. And to Jean, she kind of knows the irony of like, well, didn't you fuck over her mind? Like, how's like you did that to save her, but when I do it, I'm selfish. Okay. Like there's a great talking of mental, I guess consent, but also mental privacy.
Yeah.
Because even towards the end of the film, when Peter lets her in, because of course she wants to get in, and I love that moment because it's a complete leap of faith from Peter. That's like, no, I know you're a good person, and also what I like about it.
I think it's also good versus bad people. I feel like as long as I think especially with like the presence of Frank in this, I feel like it's a little bit more of like the MCU has entered a little bit more of a gray area with like good, bad, especially with Thunderbolts and this being very post Thunderbolts. It's like good or bad people. It's like, do you have the capacity for change? Do you have potential to be like, are you like it's seeing someone else as a human being with like depth and wanting them to see you as a human being with depth. It's him wanting her, like it's him wanting to like her, not just to let her in, but it's like I knew it was coming because it's him realizing she is like the like this whole movie is about like isolation, you know what I mean? And it's him realizing I need to stop isolating myself, and she needs to stop isolating herself. She needs to understand that that I know that I'm here to help her, and that I'm not trying to trick her, and I need to understand her better so I know how to help her.
Yeah.
So it's like a
Yeah.
really good moment of like letting like I knew he was gonna let her in, you know what I mean? And then I think like I think her powers didn't just grow with like the her sister like situation making her snap. I think her powers also grew with that. I think that expanded her power set in a way because like I don't think anyone's ever let her in before fully. And
Yeah,
I think
besides her
that
sister.
yeah, and I think that that might have like basically a lot of this is like she has the potential for so much, but it's being held back by like this history even says like you have to get if you get really good and they're practicing. It's all about like the action, the practice, the ability to. Ironically, it's about the ability to actually to actually form the connection and practice forming connections until you get better at it. Ironically, and also practice the right way to form connections because obviously there are times when you have to basically like, especially like we know like when we get more into like the X-Men stuff. I imagine there'll be times when you're like, yeah, you have to mind control someone who's trying to kill you so they won't kill you. Like there are lines where like it's obviously not ideal to like mind control someone without consent, but there are like moral lines where it's like if that's the only way to stop someone from literally killing you, is that okay? Like there's stuff like that that I think, or like if you need to do it and for to save other people, like is like ethical ways to use that power as a hero are quite interesting. Especially since we know that her powers are expanding beyond just the telepathy, like into telekinesis. You know what I mean? Like they even said they were like, she's moving shit. What the hell? Like they
Mhm.
were like, and so I'm really excited about that. And I really and I don't think she would have been able to do what she does at the end of the movie with making Peter like stay alive, his not just keep breathing, but his heart keep beating. Like basically kept
Mhm.
his body functioning. That would not be like that required both telepathy and like the empathy and possessing and telekinesis. That is that she was also I think she was also using like her like the like because you can't just be in someone's brain and be like okay don't die. That's actually not how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah. And
you know what I mean? I realize it's her connecting with him, and then it's because she still has some like I think amount of range, as far because her telepathy range now seems almost like unlimited. Or if she at least makes contact with the person first, it can like she can move away from that person as much as she wants and still be connected to them. You know what I mean? That seems to be the implication. But her telekinesis is newer, and I feel like she can only do telekinesis around her to some degree, or around herself when she's possessing someone. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think she had to stay connected to him telepathically so she could keep doing the telekinesis. That's my like
Mm.
read on that. You know what I mean?
And also, one thing I wanted to talk, like as you pointed out here in regards to like, good
Mm.
or bad stuff in the MCU, like there's a lot of greatness in the comics, but there's a lot of greatness in the MCU. I mean, like I've seen some interesting takes on Twitter, but there are some people who I think they don't think back on some stuff like with the other MCU characters where I'm like, Tony Stark committed terrible crimes before he became Iron Man. Like as a weapon, he sold so many weapons, a lot of deaths were on
Mhm.
his hand. That guilt turned him into Iron Man after beating people like Yinsen and all that stuff, right? Thor, his bigotry towards the Frost Giants, he wanted to kill an entire planet because he was mad because he was arrogant and spoiled.
Yeah.
And in regards to MCU Gene, I'm like, no, no, no. At the end of the day, it's incredibly even what they did with Frank and some other people in this were like, no, her sister was taken by this corrupt organization. She couldn't find her because obviously she was already dead. But whenever she was interrogating these people, they were either didn't know or didn't know what she was talking about. She was frustrated. And another thing is, there are moments where she's trying her hardest to handle this as best she can, but things keep going wrong. And what I love about it is that, like, oh no, the MCU, say what you about the MCU, anti-heroes to heroes or like villain to whatever, I'm like, they clearly, in my opinion,
They're doing a good
what,
job with a
no,
lot of it.
no. I think
Yeah.
when they focus on character development, they focus on growth and change, but also make sure that it makes emotional sense, like the emotion has emotional relatability. I love that, especially one of my favorite parts about this film is that not only does this do so much for all the characters, whether it be Frank, Gene, even some other characters like Bruce and Elaine, just to some small extents, where it's all about change. But even the fact that in No Way Home, there's a moment where Peter doesn't want to help the multiversal, Spider-Man villains, and he wants to kind of give up on them, and Aunt May has to remind them, this is what you're supposed to do. Like you're supposed to be there for people like this who are lost, like Norman Osborn, right? And that's their whole point, like empathy. You're supposed to have kindness.
Yeah.
This. With what I love about this film, because he's so focused on job addiction, basically. He's so focused on being Spider-Man, as Tom Holland even said in interviews when producing this film. He's obsessed with being the hero. He's obsessed with saving people. He's not taking care of himself, but he never stopped to ask himself if there were people who needed to be saved in other ways, emotionally, mentally. And I like the fact that he got to be Gene's Aunt May in a way for that brief moment, because he like, especially when, also what I love about it is that, like, when he realizes the truth and when she goes to see Jean, she's not even fully mad at him. Like when he apologizes to her and it's like, I'm so sorry that I got it wrong. I'm so sorry what you've been through. Yada yada yada.
He's like, I'm kind of the asshole here.
Yeah, I
Mm.
fucked up really bad. Let's just talk, you and me. And then Jean's kind of like, just go. It's like, just go. I'm gonna kill Bill, and I'm just gonna deal with this right now. And Peter's like, no, we don't need to kill him. Like, what I love about it is there's kind of a moment where Peter's tempted to be like what he thinks to be is the Punisher. Like, I'm just gonna live alone. I'm gonna be bitter. I'm gonna be no happiness, no nothing. And Frank is offended by that because he's kind of like, well, I didn't exactly have choice in that because, well,
Yeah.
my wife and my kids are dead.
Yeah.
You're a young man with promise. I could tell you are a happier person. You have a chance to have fun and to continue forward.
What I found interesting about that is he had a point, but also in that moment he's basically saying, I'm a lost cause, but you're not. But ironically, Peter is the one showing him, even at whatever his age is, even after everything he's done and been through, he's still not a lost cause. Which is kind of what, like, Elena is like the end result of the spectrum that, like, the Punisher is like potentially going down. Where, like, yeah, he's never gonna stop being a killer, but he has a lot of potential to do better about what he's doing. You know what I mean? And we've kind of seen that over like his project. Because I haven't properly watched all of his stuff through, but I've seen a lot of it and a lot of his stuff. You know what I mean? A lot, like, and so I know that, like, it's a very interesting journey he's been on, and him, like these other characters, like Elena, like John, like Alexa, like all these other characters have done a lot of awful stuff. I like how there's, especially in the MCU right now, there's a thing where it's like, I'm not saying the stuff that you've done in the past is okay, but you already know it wasn't okay. And I'm not gonna keep repeating the thing we both know ad nauseum. And instead, we're gonna focus on the future and the present and how to do better now and how to do better in the future. And that's the same way Peter is with with the Punisher. And I think that's Yelena kind of sets a good example of, like, he knows that she has killed people and people who didn't deserve it, but she also knows the context of how she got pulled into that, and, like, also knows the Punisher in the context of how he got pulled into it, and, like, the mental health aspects for all. Like, I love that they're really exploring, like, a lot of these people that have become, like, antagonists or anti-heroes or murderers at any point, regardless of the reasoning, they're not okay mentally. That's you're never okay mentally, even if you wanted to do it. It takes a toll. You know what I mean? It takes a toll to kill. Even, like, I think what's so interesting is, even especially Thor after his redemption arc, when he kills Thanos and, like, that one, like, the version of the future they had to rewrite, you can tell he's still, like, it takes a bit of a toll, because he's like, I wish I didn't have to be this way. And, like, he thought that he had left his being a ruthless killer behind, and it brought that part out of him that he doesn't actually enjoy anymore. And I thought that was super interesting, especially since, like, it's not very satisfying to have to do it in front of the guy's daughter, even if the guy's daughter is down for it. It's just like that moment was really good, because, like, Nebula looks away and Thor is just like, he's not celebrating in triumph the way that, like, like the first movie Thor before his redemption, if he had pulled that shit off, he would have been throwing a party. Like, but I like how, like, he's not really, like, it's not really worth celebrating, because it's especially when it's a pyrrhic victory of, like, well, everyone's still dead. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's and we show how even when characters that have still been redeemed are so forced to kill, there's a shift in how they treat the action. Do you know what I mean? There's a shift in how they respond to what they've done, even when it was justified and the right thing to do. It's like, it's not as easy, it's not as pleasant, it's not being, like, because there's, I think, especially early Thor, it was in a state where he was so much not understanding the reality of mortality. Like he didn't get it. Like on a way that I think is often like from what I've seen is kind of like pulled on, but in a way more extreme way for whatever the Zack Snyder animation is called. And like
Oh gods.
which we need to watch. And have you seen that, John?
What was that?
Twilight of the Gods.
Twilight of the Gods.
I have not seen that. No.
Okay, we should watch that because I really want to watch that eventually.
It's a great
I think
show.
you'll like it. But it kind of pulls on this idea that like even the most well-meaning, technically like gods, like Baldur and that thing, are very detached from what it really feels like to be a mortal person, to be a human being, and what that grief feels like, and what death feels like, and the consequences it has. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of detached from that to where they stay, like they see mortals as ants, in a way that's kind of understandable. That doesn't make it okay. And I think the first Thor is a really like that, where he sees everything he's doing as like, oh, it's like I'm smashing an anthill. And that's what his lesson was like. He has to go live in the anthill and realize that the ants are pretty chill, and realize what it would feel like to have your anthill smashed. You know what I mean? Like, and that is a really interesting perspective, because then we have a character like Thanos who also seems to like see himself as like as he sees everyone as like kind of like smaller than him, but he like is weirdly like every ant is important, and that's why I'm killing half of them. Like it's like him versus Thor is interesting, because Thor used to see everyone as insignificant, and Thanos sees people as expendable but important. I think that's so interesting. But now we have Frank versus Peter, where Peter, he doesn't, and I was just talking about this, and I'm talking about this like in mentions on Twitter right now with my friend. I really like that at no point in the movie does he say killing's never the answer. We should never kill, because that wouldn't make any fucking sense for the MCU right now, would it? That would be so stupid.
No. Well, it's also like, I mean, sorry, I didn't even cut you off. But it's like one thing you and I have talked about, Kara. We were Spider-Man and Batman. Like people often compare them; they have similarities with their villains and stuff. But the thing they both have in common in both the Marvel and DC universe, that technically speaking, objectively speaking, they are kind of hypocritical, because while Batman and Spider-Man will never kill, they're best friends with killers. Like Spider-Man's best friends with Wolverine, Punisher. Some of the Avengers kill people. Like Spider-Man is fine with heroes killing people, as long as he knows they have a good reason for it. And I know there are some people who love Brand New Day and they enjoyed it. They kind of wish that Peter and Frank fought a bit. Obviously, even with the plot of the film, like, well, A, there wasn't enough time for that, but B, I'm like, yeah, no. Peter was around killers.
The implication is they did fight at first. Like the implication of Staten Island is they clearly like had a fight where they ended up like not realizing they were on the same side till halfway through. And I think that's really funny.
Yeah. And another thing about it is that like I feel like this and Supergirl of this a film from this year kind of did something kind of similar. I'm not gonna spoil anything for Supergirl if you two haven't seen it. But
I haven't seen it yet, but I know that like that just from promos, so it's not even a spoiler. She kills, whereas Superman doesn't. You know what I mean?
No, that's really great.
But the promos don't give away the context of who exactly she's killing, and I think once you understand who exactly she's killing, it's even less of a problem, because you're if Superman were ever to kill some people, it'd probably be those guys.
No.
I haven't seen the film myself either, but like I want to, but like based on what I have heard about the film from people who have seen it, and it's definitely very understandable her killing the people.
I don't know. Superman probably wouldn't kill them, but if he saw them die, he'd be like, "Oh no."
No.
Anyways,
but Supergirl was but Supergirl's a film I really liked a lot, and of course, she's killing sex traffickers, and in that film, this is kind of.
I don't even think that's a spoiler, because that kind of was also in the promo. Like it's pretty much like clear she's fighting like some really deserving to die people.
Right. But there's a character in the film, a sidekick character that's also from the comic that the film is adapting. She wants to kill very bad for a particular reason. And Kara is kind of like Kara, and even Lobo, to a way, are kind of like, can you handle it? Can you live with it? Now, this is something that's been in not comics, but it's been in live entertainment. The idea of like a killer.
It's not completely anti-killer, but it's like it's still not easy. It takes a toll on you.
I think what I like about Supergirl and and Spider-Man Brand New Day and even
Mhm.
some other stuff is it's a choice. It's meant to be
Yeah,
a choice. It like Peter
and it
lets
will have consequences.
right. And I like the fact that while Peter is giving up his side, right,
Mhm.
and he lets Jean make the choice. Like if Frank was there and he found out what happened, he would have been like, oh yeah, let's just kill Bill. Like he absolutely would have been fine with Jean killing Bill. But because Peter is there, he's there to remind her, can you handle that? Can you actually handle
Is that
what
actually
coming
gonna help? Is that
help
actually?
you?
Yeah. No, it's a thing where it's like it's like regardless of whether or not this guy deserves it, is this gonna make you better or worse? Is this gonna make you feel better? Because I don't think like because he knows like especially after he came down from his like thing of almost killing the goblin in a rage, I feel like he reflected on that and knew that wouldn't have made me feel better. I would have
Yeah,
felt so much worse.
yeah. And that's why
And it
like
wouldn't
that.
have brought her back. Like it's and I think so. I think it's a like I'm like I it's if they did such a good job of like avoiding the cliche. Oh, it makes you as bad as he is because like
Yeah,
no, it doesn't. He's
yeah,
Yeah,
kidnapping
no.
multiple kids and killing them. Like as we discussed the serial killer thing, but it would kind of like even if it doesn't necessarily make you as bad, it's gonna put you closer to that person to kill one per like do you want to be any closer to that person or like do you want this cost on your soul do you want to do you are you actually going to like what it feels like to kill a defenseless person like because also consequences is he's then completely in her mercy and I think that's also an important part because like the fact that she even hesitates before Peter gets there I think it's because it's different to kill someone defending yourself than to have them tied up. That
no, no,
does
no.
feel different, and I think that is the thing that might have been like, "Am I really going to do this?" Like, I think she might have hesitated with that because her sister died tied up like that and
Yeah,
helpless, and I think that is the thing that might have given her hesitation the most. Of like, and that was I think that's also, but and I loved it because at the same time, it's she's like, "Do I want to do this?" But at the same time, she's like, "But he deserves to die the same way my sister died." So she's like struggling with that. Like, I want to inflict the same pain on some level on him, but also do I want to be inflicting the same pain that my sister felt? I think that is a more interesting take than, oh, you would automatically be just like him. No, she wouldn't, even if she had done it, but she would have felt something that I think would have haunted her. Does that make
no, no,
sense?
no, right. And also what I love about it, and it's also really the reason why I'm very excited to see Peter and Jean's friendship in future films,
Mm-hmm.
is like obviously throughout the they needed an antagonist. I don't see her as like the main villain. I mean, obviously yes, I know she helps drive the plot, but like
Mm-hmm.
she's not hell bent on ruining Peter's life.
I would say
I,
Bill is really the antagonist, even from
yeah,
the
I
beginning,
would.
because he's pulling all these strings and he's shady as hell.
Yeah,
I think that Jean in this is comparable to Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah,
yes, I agree.
yes.
I agree. Yeah, and that's a great
Mhm.
comparison.
I would love them to interact.
Oh yeah, that would be wonderful. I
Oh
do
yeah,
think
they probably will in Secret Wars.
yeah, or probably after. Yeah, I do want to see that. But like one of the reasons why I love about this film, like especially with their relationship when they're talking to each other, where Jean is fascinated with Peter, and also to Jean's perspective as someone in the MCU, this is probably the first superhero she has ever interacted, and she's of course kind of like, look, you're talking to Damage Control, which did the shady thing to me and my sister. I don't know. I'm looking into your mind. You're clearly naive. You're not guilty. The only
Yeah,
thing you're guilty of is that you're deliberately ignoring the
but
love.
being
Yeah,
naive and ignorant and
yeah,
causing harm is still being guilty in a way. Like
yeah, yeah.
it is different, but the
So,
but he is gonna have to grapple with like
Mm.
the what he made this
The
movie is
inhibitor.
that that's his Ultron. That is gonna fuck him up and everyone else up.
Yeah,
And
and
I
also
love that. I love that he's gonna have to grapple with that mistake for a long
yeah,
time, perhaps.
one thing
And
I
also makes him relevant to a lot of future projects that he might
oh
not
no
have
no
otherwise had a reason to be involved in. And I
oh no
love that.
they're gonna
so
tie one of the things that Kevin Feige said with Peter Parker with Spider Man, they were like their plan regardless of multiversal Avenger films. They said we want Spider-Man Peter Parker to become the face of the street level side of the MCU, they're building up to that. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the next film, which is about him and Daredevil and the Defenders. But also, I think another thing is Spider-Man is the crossover character in the Marvel universe. Like he was the main protagonist of Marvel Team Up, where it was literally Peter Parker being another superhero in every book. Spider-Man always has a very a long history with the X-Men, especially Wolverine. And in the comics, like there's even moments where like this is one famous book. I forget the name of it, but like this one book where Green Goblin Ghost of Magneto, like a Spider-Man villain Ghost of Magneto, and it's kind of like all the masters of evil in the Marvel universe are kind of like, let's swap villains. So Magneto, you go fight Spider-Man, and I, Doctor Doom, will go after the X-Men, like stuff like that. So there's actually a great story where Magneto goes after Spider-Man. At the same point in time, Spider-Man gets like this power up from a god called the Universe
Mhm.
Power. It's only developed to make sure Peter doesn't want to get killed by Magneto. But not only could you build up to Peter and Magneto fighting in a future film, you can actually have it make sense where he's kind of like, you did this thing. I'm really fucking mad at you. I'm not sure if I can forgive you. But also one thing I remembered in the Ultimate Universe, which sometimes the MCU and other Spider-Man films takes from, in the Ultimate Universe, Doctor Octopus is a mutant. His powers with his robot metal arms comes from
Mhm.
the fact that he has magnetic poles in his back, and
Yeah.
it was actually a retcon in the Ultimate Universe. But there were some Spider-Man fans who were like, this ain't a bad idea to explain how Doctor Octopus A survived that accident that made him like this, but it also constantly explains why he keeps making new arms after Spider-Man tears it off. And this is my personal fan theory or pitch. I don't think they'll do this. They'll probably do something else. If MCU Doctor Octopus is like an acolyte of Magneto, and he finds out that Spider-Man made the inhibitor, him going after Spider-Man in the future film, I think could work because you can have a consequence from this carry over. But in the Mutant Saga, which the MCU is starting soon, Kevin Feige, who loves the X-Men and loves mutants, he's going to want mutants to appear in every project. But there are some Spider-Man fans who, while they like Brand New Day, they it's like, no, no, I want the next villain of the next Spider-Man movie to be a proper Spider-Man villain. And I'm like, hey, Doctor Octopus, he's a mutant. Only in the Ultimates you can actually do one mutant for the Mutant Saga and make it still keep a Spider-Man villain in the MCU, just make it a little bit different. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that we could also do like some stuff with like there are a lot of like there are a lot of kind of like smaller like Spider-Man villains you can kind of like rework to be kind of more mutant related, I think,
I
pretty
agree. I
easily
agree. Yeah.
Mhm.
without anyone really
Heck,
giving it. Okay, there are some characters that probably are fully like mutants, or you could retcon into being mutants. You know what I mean? That it wouldn't contradict. That especially from some of the older comics that like you could do some fun stuff with. You know what I mean?
mhm. Heck,
Especially with all the
you could
multiverse crossover.
do you could do you could say that the Tombstone is mutant. I mean, and make that as an excuse to be able to bring him back and have a bigger role for him next
I think
time,
too.
since he was in just one scene of this.
Oh no, no, no. That's the thing about what I love about Brand New Day is that it does feel like a lot like a Spider-Man comic book in terms of snippets and cameos here and there. I do agree with you, John, that like just so because what's his name, Crondon, who voiced Tombstone in Into the Spider Verse, and of course plays him in live action in this movie. He's very happy to get the job. He was supposed to be the main villain
Mhm.
of a one of the Sony films, El Muerte, which is a Spider-Man wrestler villain. They were gonna do a whole movie.
That
Sony was gonna
sounds
do
incredible.
no, Sony was going to do a whole movie with Bad Bunny as El Muerte. And it was just be about a whole film by him working for Tombstone in the criminal underworld. Now, that film got scrapped because of a bunch of issues, and I think Bad Bunny's kind of busy. I'm not going to lie, if Sony makes Bad Bunny live action Miguel O'Hara, Spider Man 2099, I would actually be
That would
happy.
be great.
No, 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 right?
Mhm.
That's
When
what they
Bad
should do.
Bunny started playing in this movie, I was like, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, okay, period.
No, 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 no,
No,
but like,
because Peter would listen to Bad Bunny. That's
no, no, no,
for
right.
sure.
No, no, right, but like, when that film didn't happen because of production issues and other stuff that's going on behind the scenes, they told Crondon, "You're going to play Tombstone live action. How about you just in this movie right now? We have bigger plans for you in the next film." So I actually really like that. Because like there's a lot of like setup. That's what's Spider-Man Brand New Day. There's a lot of setup, right? But it doesn't there are some people when not this is not even an MCU thing, but this is a thing I think across like other franchises like Star Wars or Star Trek or even DC. There are some people who get irritated by the commercials for future films or something, right? With Spider-Man Brand New Day, I don't think people get irritated. Like we all know another Spider-Man film is coming. We have faith in it's Spider-Man. He's making his fuck ton of money. He always makes money, but
Mhm.
no one will be like no one's going to be like, oh, the sequel won't happen, so all the setup is pointless. Like, no, no, no. It's still a standalone story, and you can see the seeds of other plot threads for a great sequel as well. And I like the fact they found that balance without it being like so like I'm also impressed by how they handled like even like like the Hand Ninja Clan. They're very big in the comics, especially in Daredevil comics. They're big in the TV shows. If you never watched Daredevil or read a Daredevil comic book, right? This will be your first introduction to the Hand. And in this in this film, they have like 3 minutes of screen time, but in the film, it's literally, hey, here's a news broadcast. Peter Spider-Man fought the Hand. He put them away. Damage Control gave them jobs. I'm like, and they feel so organic that I don't think anyone can get complained. Like even like they never feel out of place. That's what I love about this film is that it's such a comic booky Spider-Man film because you could just see something and be like, makes sense. Like I'm not even confused by what's going on.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of went past it pretty quickly, but I do want to go back to it because this is a Hulk podcast, and I also don't want to just be negative about
Oh no,
Hulk.
don't worry about that.
I did enjoy there's like how I some of the visuals like I really enjoyed when Peter's pulling Punisher under Hulk. Hulk that was Hulk is jumping towards them. That was really fun. The on I like that they didn't try and give Punisher an upgrade to make him be on the same level as Hulk. They just let him have let Hulk be still bulletproof. I like that. And that I like. Then there was fun destruction with him. What are some things that you guys liked about the Hawkins?
Oh no, I have. Obviously, you and I both.
I actually, I just real quick, I think, well, I think there was a small amount of like he wasn't like as big in this. You know what I mean? And I understand like I really liked the way he looked when he when Peter was like, oh, I didn't know you could get that big. That was fun to me. But
Yeah, yeah.
also, I think this is setting up for like some really interesting Hulk stuff. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of like setting up for some very interesting Hulk and Bruce stuff that I am really looking forward to. And I think my favorite part was when Ned was shown crying over him and like
Yeah.
showing empathy and being concerned, and that he's meant to be a stand-in for a lot of the community.
It
Like
would
the
be really
civilians.
cool.
I
If
want to
we
see
got
more of that.
Yeah.
It would be really cool if when we do eventually get a new Hulk film, Ned is in it. Like that would be a really fun side character to appear in there.
No, I get that. In regards to Hulk, I love Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner, and I love whenever he appears as Bruce Banner and Hulk in the MCU. And him being a professor, I love that. I love the fact of what we got to see of him, and I like the fact that he still has a good reputation in the MCU. That they didn't ruin it, even by the way they wrote him out. People still
Whoa.
love him. And what was that?
I'm trolling Twitter while I'm listening, and someone just mentioned something that I didn't realize that makes the end of the movie make more sense to me.
Which part?
I forgot Ned is meant to is like implied to have magic. I
Yeah, that's
forgot
right.
Ned is canonically meant to like have potential to like become a sorcerer from
Yeah.
No Way Home, and he opened a portal because you can't just open like I forgot you can't just open a portal just with a sling. You have to like have magical potential of some kind. You know what I mean? Or be like or because if you don't have ingrained magical potential, it takes forever to learn.
Yeah.
Strange did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact he just did, I forgot that means he like it's supposed to imply it's not just a one-off joke. It's supposed to imply he has magic, which they also kind of like they kind of like made jokes about him being like having like magic or knowing magic tricks in Homecoming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie when they do that thing, I thought they had done it earlier in the apartment. I was wrong. They never fucking did that. That they never fucking did that in the movie until then. That was not something they did in the apartment where they were hanging out. I went back and looked.
Yeah.
I was wrong about that. That was Ned remembering, apparently. Apparently, like Ned's, or like at very least having a muscle memory, but he wouldn't associate that muscle memory with the name Peter unless he was remembering. And so, and the fact that he has magic and it was a hand motion, like how the magic works with the sorcerers, that is actually quite interesting. I think that makes it a lot more because I was unsure what it was supposed to be implying, but now now that I realized that was not that was the first time they did that in the movie. Ned should not remember the handshake, and even if he remembered it just with muscle memory, he should not remember that would mean Peter.
Yeah.
No, well, there is actually another. You know,
And
it's funny.
MJ is being shown as the real, like they're both really into tech, but MJ is being shown to be like the smarter one. You know what I mean? Which is always even smarter than Ned. You know what I mean? So I feel like MJ is going to lean really heavily into being the tech one, while Ned may lean further into learning magic and stuff. That would
What?
be awesome.
That I think, okay, because with Ned leads, and there's some other stuff that was Sony that kind of came out with the last film, No Way Home. So Ned leads in the comics, he becomes Hobgoblin, kind of only through a retcon in the comics, but he becomes Hobgoblin. And of
Oh,
course,
that
there
would
was that
actually work so well with this, Ned.
no, no, right. And there was that throwaway line. Well, not there was that funny moment in No Way Home where Tony Maguire, Peter Parker, he's like, "Oh yeah, my best friend, my best friend, he became a supervillain and tried to kill me." And of course, Ned promises Peter that won't happen. There was a huge fan theory for a while. I'm not gonna lie, there was even some people like me as this film was being developed. They were like, "What if Damage Control takes the Green Goblin glider tech from No Way Home and some of the pumpkin bombs, whatever? They reverse engineer it with Ned, and he becomes Hobgoblin, trying to find Spider-Man. And because he doesn't remember Peter Parker, he hates Spider-Man. That was an idea people were kind of like considering that they could have done. But obviously, by the time the film wraps up and the time this is this, Ned and Peter are going to be friends again. He's not going to become a Hobgoblin. However, in the comics, there is a Hobgoblin who dies. He goes to hell and he gets possessed by a demon, and he becomes like Demon Goblin or something like that. It might be one of the Jack O' Lanterns, but like, oh no, sorry, it was Jack O' Lantern. That's kind of like an offshoot of the Green Goblin family. But what you call it? But like there is a history of goblins in the comics being associated with magic after some form of a supernatural crisis. And with No Way Home, as that script was being developed, uh, the producers at Sony wanted to give MJ and Ned powers, and which is why some people believe that because of Zendaya's popularity and because this is a thing in the comics, some people believe that MJ will become a host for the Venom symbiote or a member of the symbiote family in a future film, which I can see happening when they bring in MCU Venom or something else, right? But in regards to Ned and his perspective and some other stuff, I could see him donning the Hobgoblin armor to save Peter, like as a hero. Yeah. And
I could see him like because there are some versions where the Hobgoblin, like especially the
Harry
like
Osborn.
Harry Board version, kind of becomes more of an anti-hero versus like a vigilante.
Yeah. I see that definitely happening.
I could see Ned especially when Ned has magical like prowess seemingly, and also good with tech, but he's very much better with like engineering tech, it seems like, whereas MJ is like seems like she's on like a higher like theoretical level, you know what I mean? Ned is very much like mechanical genius, it seems like. So I could totally see him doing well with like merging like magic and tech the way that so many do in the MCU, and like getting his hand on one con and stuff maybe, and like having a really cool Hobgoblin fit. Not to mention he is just I feel like they were making this movie and they were like, when did this guy get insanely hot? And they're like, we can't waste this actor. He's so sexy.
No, I mean,
He's literally the CEO of sex.
yeah. Especially because they reference that meme a lot, even in the press or and the film. And also another thing, some kind of like underrated
He's so
news
hot.
Jacob Batalon, he got married,
Yep.
and his wife was at the premiere. Incredibly hot, tall woman. Because she's taller than him.
Everyone was like, yeah, that tracks actually.
No, right. But there were some people. They were like, "Who the hell is that? Is she in the film?" I was like, "No, that's his wife." I was like, "Wife? When did he get married?" It was like last week. He's like, "Last."
That's awesome, actually.
Yeah, it's like no, but like
hard watching at the premiere.
No, but I remember there's even some fans when they were watching the first ever trailer for Brand New Day from like months prior, right? There were some Spider-Man fans who were kind of like, "Holy shit! I guess without Peter, Ned made his move. He and MJ are dating." I'm like. And like there was some people who got
MJ's just so like Ned is so attractive in this movie. Everyone just assumed MJ couldn't resist it, and I think that's so real. I don't know how she's resisting it. Like I don't get it.
Yeah. No, but but what I love about this because this there was a another version of this film that almost happened but didn't happen because of production issues. But like it's kind of a joke now on Twitter. But there was one fan earlier today who posted the original
I saw that.
Spider-Man King in Black, and then
That made me laugh real hard.
no, the fake synopsis on Rotten Tomato killed me. After the instant hit Avengers Kang Dynasty, the three peers wake up on Bio to fight No God of the symbiotes, and the only way to save the MCU is with the whole Thor, the God of
See,
Thunder.
it wouldn't have been as good as a movie, but I think I also would have watched
No,
that.
I would. No,
I would all still watch that. I'd be like, huh?
no. It would have been insane. It would have been like a saying, "What the fuck is this?" But like, I do think a version of that film will probably happen, especially as uh, they've teased even the actor Michael Mando who plays Scorpion is a very underrated actor. In the comics,
He's
Matt
awesome,
Gargan.
yeah.
No, yeah, I know. In the
Mhm.
comics, Matt Gargan, the Scorpion, becomes Venom, and when promoting this film, he constantly kept posting Venom art and
I
basically
love the
saying,
idea of just fucking with everybody.
yeah, no, no. But I think he also trying to say, hey, look, I'm only in this movie for a few minutes. I'm happy to be back. That show Better Call Saul finally fucking ended. I'm allowed to be back in the MCU again because I left that TV show. But I think he was also trying to say, I'm Venom. I'm like until they do a new Eddie Brock, I'm gonna be Venom. I'm betting on it. So I think that's gonna happen.
And good for him.
Yeah, in like a few films from now. And whenever they
Also, that
do,
would be crazy because I mean, Scorpion can't catch a break from getting like possessed.
oh yeah, like that would be
That would be kind of funny, like a running gag where he just keeps getting taken over by other villains, and he's like,
you know
I can do my own shit.
You know, with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, at least in his solo films, he kind of saves Vulture from death, right? And then with Mysterio is such a piece of shit. He couldn't have any empathy. He couldn't save him. Like he couldn't. There was nothing good of him.
Yeah, especially with
And
the
then
moment of Vulture like full
yeah,
on like having tears in his eyes of being like Spider-Man, what's going like he wasn't like mad that Spider-Man was there. He had this moment of like, what? Hey, can you tell me what's going on? Like,
yeah.
yeah, I know we have beef, but I also trust you to inform me of what the hell just happened.
No, no, right.
Like
And
what?
and then with knowing home to be the best part of that film is when they all go in to save the villains from themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we get a version of that with Gene, where like he saves Gene with the power of friendship, literally.
Mm-hmm.
With Scorpion,
With
it
the
would be
power of enthusiastic consent.
yeah, mental consent, yeah.
Like he
And
basically like taught her like I don't blame her for what she was doing, but she was like kind of like crashing out and like doing all that. And I think that him doing that also taught her the value of how it
yes,
actually feels better when someone consents and lets you in.
yeah,
That just it just I can only imagine that just feels better for her. And I think
yeah,
that influences a lot of like, oh, it's because that's probably what she's been really searching for her whole life and didn't realize she just needed to ask to get it
yeah.
because of the way her life was gone. Because
No,
nobody,
no,
Nice
because
one.
especially as foster kids, I imagine they weren't allowed to ask for anything like that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the idea that she's allowed to ask for intimacy on even on like a telepathic level, I don't think that occurs to her until then, and I think that makes it very interesting.
Mhm.
Oh no, right. No, I agree as well. In regards to some other Spider-Man villains and where they could go next in the following of film, I could see Scorpion and Tombstone having arcs where Peter maybe have to form friendships with them because MC Peter has learned a lot of different lessons, and Spider-Man's empathy is kind of one of his superpowers, right? And I do kind of wonder and hope that they keep because with Spider-Man films at least one of the reasons why even people who hate superhero films or hate comic book stuff enjoy Spider-Man films is that there is a sympathy to all the Spider-Man films. The people you can understand where
Yeah,
they're coming from, and then even if it's someone like Mysterio who is selfish to a T,
you
you're
still get
entertained by them. Yeah.
yeah. Like you
So
still kind of got where he was coming from, and there's a
yeah,
moment where like it's interesting because he had the potential to do something else other than what he did, and he chose to be a worse and worse and worse at every point. You know what I
mm,
mean? Where there's like if you go back to the beginning, there's a version of him that like it's I think it makes it interesting because like he didn't have to do this. You know what I mean? He could have just gone off and had his own fucking life and made his own inventions that Tony didn't have to. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
and it's an interesting example of like some people are too are beyond saving, and those are the people that usually don't want to be saved at all. You know what I mean? Whereas other characters often deep down, even if they claim they don't want to be saved, they do. They want to be, and they don't want to be like this. They want to be better. Like Jean could not have been more obvious that she wanted to be, to be saved in that way. You know what I mean? To not
you
have
know,
to go down this route. Whereas Mysterio, every chance he was given, he dug his heels in, and I think that, and dug his heels in a petty way. like, and so like, and I think that is very interesting because there are like these villains that are extremely petty that will just
Yeah.
dig the heels in. That Peter had to realize in that movie, you can't save everyone. Like that movie was basically realizing sometimes people like you can't save everyone and from like from themselves. You know what I mean? But you can try, but sometimes
Yeah.
you need to like stop. You need to let go. You know what I mean? And I think that's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
why it worked in this movie. That Peter wasn't like you should never kill ever because like that doesn't make sense for him at this point. But you should
Yeah.
try everything you can to not have to do that. You should expend every other option. And Frank agreed by the end. And I think that'll be an interesting character arc for all the characters. Frank
Yeah.
and Jean kind of like understood where he was coming from, where it's like we can try other things first.
Mhm.
Overall, best Spider-Man movie live action, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's my favorite live action Peter Parker film. Because I have different rankings on the other Spider-Man films, but I love them all. But in terms of being like a comic book Spider-Man film I've always
Mm-hmm.
wanted, this is the one I've wanted for a very, very long time, and I think it does a
Mhm.
fantastic job with everyone in this. And though there are some, I guess, minor quabbles, I know the sequels and other stuff in the MCU are gonna deliver on the setup in this.
Especially since this one made the last movie retroactively kind of work better by
Mhm.
making the spell everyone hated have payoff that was actually interesting and satisfying and made for an interesting story. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
To
Mhm.
where, and I think that's impressive. You can get the thing that everyone disliked, even the writers of this movie were like, okay, we got to deal with this. And instead, seeing that as a challenge to write a
Mhm.
good story around that instead of an obstacle, I think is a way forward for this, specifically the five Spider-Man movies, where I would like to see a pattern where anything that like might have been questionable in the last movie, I've noticed this pattern with Tom Holland movies. They improve on themselves and retroactively kind of retcon fix stuff
Yeah.
really well. Does that make
Like a
sense?
comic. Yeah,
Mhm.
like an actual comic. Yeah.
Yeah, like it made the last movie work better for me. You know what I mean? When I think that's like I like that movie, but it has a lot of the weakest parts. But this it sells that the premise from like, the last movie left us with. They stuck the landing, and I'm glad.
I agree.
Mhm. I feel like I like this movie a lot, but I do not love it because there are just as a lot of aspects of it with Huck and otherwise where I wasn't a big fan of like I wasn't a big fan of him working with the police. I was gave me a bit of an ick.
Yeah,
And then like I also just like I wasn't personally a big fan of the change in tone owned from the previous trilogy. It made it feel to me like they didn't want it to feel like an MCU movie, and like kind of like we're doing a reboot, but we want to keep some plot points in it, and like that just wasn't on something I was a big fan of. But I'm really glad that everybody else is liking the film a lot more than I am.
I think I get what you mean, but I also don't because the tone feels like it hasn't actually changed that much from the rest of the MCU right now. This is the tone of the MCU right now, like
Uh,
as
uh,
at large. I feel like this and
uh,
Thunderbolts are like very well good companion pieces. I think.
yeah, I can understand that. But yeah, that's I think everything I have to say for this episode. Are there any final words that either of you would like to say before we end this off?
I think going off that, I think I see what you mean with like the tone has shifted in general a bit with the MCU in a lot of ways. Like we're getting a bit of a tone shift, but I think it's more balanced out than I was worried about because like a lot of stuff was going like pretty like kind of dark and serious, but it was like I thought this was gonna be way darker and more tonally like dour than it was. I was surprised by how funny and upbeat and lighthearted this turned out to be.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So I thought that there was more of a balance there than I expected, and I hope we see more of that balance going forward when we're gonna deal with a lot of dark shit. You know what I mean?
To be honest,
So
Yeah.
I hope that we kind of get rid of the dark shit for Spider-Man in the future because like I'm kind of tired of
I meant the general
these
MCU.
depressing SC Spider-Man that it's like we have have he's sad and had him Far From Home because of Tony. And then we have it have in No Way Home. He's sad because of the situation of the Asian, and then in this we have him sad because his friends he can't be with his friends, and I I want to get back to completely happy
See,
Spider-Man,
that's the thing.
and
This movie ended out with very much teasing that's where we're going back
I'm very
to.
much hoping that that
And
they keep that.
so I think what I'm trying to say is a bunch of the other MCU stuff is going to be kind of tonally like this until we get Doomsday and Secret
Yeah.
Wars. I think that's going to be the real like kind of like end chapter of this like dour chapter, and then after like all the stuff we're going to get after that, especially Spider-Man stuff, I think is going to be on a real upswing, pun intended.
Makes sense.
That's what
Makes sense.
the end of the movie felt like, that we're heading on an upswing. And even the like tone of the world felt like yeah, Peter might have been bummed, but the entire world was actually in a way better spot societally than we've seen in the past for the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing like a really good response and like potential for the society that's now coming together and finally kind of figuring things out after the snap. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
And they'll have to contend with like Doomsday and Secret Wars. But I think because of everything that's happened, I think everyone, even like the society and civilians, are more emotionally prepared for the chaos that's about to hit the fan, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore will recover better, but faster after it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I think we're setting up for after Doomsday and Secret Wars, we're going to have a tonal upswing that I think is going to make a lot of sense and be
Mm-hmm.
led by characters like Shang-Chi, Spider-Man, some of the Thunderbolts, some of these like this X-Men stuff. I think we're going to see a lot of that kind of take an upswing towards even more hope core, like
Mm-hmm.
the end of this movie. So I get what you mean, but I don't think you'll have to worry about too much longer. I think post Secret
Yeah.
Wars, we're going to get a shift. But
Oh,
wouldn't you
yeah.
agree, Brayden?
Hopefully.
I with Spider-Man Brand New Day, with this film where because I have the unfortunate position because I have friends who work at Marvel and because I have scoopers and reporters. There are issues that bother other people that I get over quickly because I had months to prepare for it. So with Spider-Man Brand New Day, what I love about this film is that a lot of the accusations or a lot of the worries that people had, I'm glad people are realizing it's bullshit because I had to deal with almost a year and a half of people complaining that Marvel was ruining Tom Holland's street level idea by forcing the Hulk, Punisher, and Yelena in it. And yet
Mm-hmm.
when you watch this film, it's still street level. They don't overshadow. And also, even like there are some people, they hate Tom Holland's last trilogy because they're like, oh, Tony Stark overshadows him, Nick Fury overshadows him, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and the other villains overshadow him. With this film, even those people are happy because they're like, finally, Peter Parker, Spider Man, is an adult and he's Spider Man. He's even when he's
Mm-hmm.
sad, he's confident and is more confident in this movie than in his own previous trilogy. And like I feel like they've addressed the criticisms people had about MCU Peter and some other stuff without making it overreactionary course correction. Because like there are some like I'm not even kidding, John. I mean I understand where you're coming from, but like there are some Spider-Man fans who like this film, but they're also kind of like, I wish he was more broke. I wish he was more depressed. I wish he was closer to killing someone. Like stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like this like even there's
There's
some
a lot of
Spider
Spider-Man fans who just want torture porn for and for
because that's
or
what most of the
Peter,
comics they've read, or they only watch the Sam Raimi
and then
films.
and then similarly with Hulk, there's so many fans who are like are who are like, oh, he should just kill everybody, and if he doesn't, then he's nerfed. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, no, that's insane.
But listen, when it comes to Hulk stuff, why I get why you were disappointed. From what I'm seeing on Twitter, there are a lot of Hulk fans who are more happy to
I
see a
know,
solo Hulk
yeah.
project. Yeah, and even then, there are some people who are
The
like,
potential is
yeah,
exciting.
yeah, and there are some
Mhm.
people who are like, this isn't about making Savage Hulk the monster again and making it about him. Because in theory, if it was about that, he would have been the main villain of the film, not Gene
Mhm.
or not Bill Metzger.
It was
But
instead about another person that
that needs help. And I
needs
think
help.
that will probably get picked up on in Avengers Secret Wars and then
For
maybe
sure.
the
Mhm.
next Spider-Man film. Because like in my personal opinion, just from how they were using Bruce in this, I don't believe Kirk Connors is going to come to the MCU because Bruce can kind of. I even talked about this with friends of mine like a year and a half ago. Like, what are they doing with Bruce? And I'm like, I'm like, he's replacing Kurt. He's replacing the Lizard in a way. But there's something interesting they can do with this because Spider-Man and Punisher have fought the Hulk in the comics, so they found a way to reference that as quick as they could. But also another thing is Hulk and the Punisher and Black Widow, Yelena, all accompany different paths he could take as a superhero in this film, and I felt they did that.
All right. So I'm
I think that
end
wraps it up.
this
Yeah.
us off. So thank you everyone for listening. If you like this game analysis, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or a 5-star rating on Spotify. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episodes. Please let me know. Again, and a big thank you to Brayden and Kira for joining for this. I really appreciate both of you doing it. And if you'd like to listen to more, please subscribe. Many more game analysis from me coming, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Master John, signing off.